Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Back in the Late 1900s with Rich and Jay. I'm Rich, the guy with no musical ability, except for listening and buying. Find me on X at Fuzz Doom Rip and doing reviews from Musicpedia of Metal as a Doom Charts contributor, all the other socials at Rich.Paiva. The guy with musical taste, who is a co host with me, is Jay. And Jay is the drummer from the amazing Holy Roller, currently on Ripple Music, still vinyl available on Bandcamp. Go get that. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Appreciate the intro. I think there's music ability in there somewhere, Rich. You're
I,
gonna find it.
there's a video of me doing karaoke singing "Jump Around" by House of Pain that went to work viral, but that's really about it. But we'll find it maybe.
So I am super thrilled for tonight. We have a amazing guest. Um, I want to introduce everybody to Rob De Luca. Rob is a founding member of Spread Eagle. Amongst the, I have a whole list of shit he's done. Like impressive resume. We'll go through some of it for sure. Rob, how you doing?
Good. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate being here. It's always fun to talk about the 1900s, back in the 1900s.
So to give you
When
some
I was
background,
a kid, we walked to school.
that,
Snowshoes.
that's the background. It started as a work joke for me. All these younger kids at work um, would talk about stuff, and I'd be like, well, back in the late 1900s, and I'd give them a quip.
It does
So that's
sound
cool.
crazy, like in the last
Yeah,
century, it's like last century.
yeah.
Somebody just sent me a note saying that anyone who is 21 years or younger has not walked the earth when Dimebag Darrell was alive, and that was just a weird kind of point of view. So yeah, interesting
Shame
time.
they never got to see that. Luckily, we did a bunch of times.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned in the intro, Rob here is a founding member of Spread Eagle, and I wrote this down because I want to say it. I also like it when they're lying on the floor, Spread Eagle. Um, just to quote a song title, a song lyric. So you guys formed in '89, did a self-titled, did two more albums, one in '93 and one in 2019. The self-titled album is often on lists of top 10, top 20 glam albums of all time. It's a fantastic album. I've been listening to it a bunch lately, getting ready for this interview. Um, you guys disbanded in '95, got back together in 2006, and you guys are still out on tour doing 35th anniversary stuff. Tell me a little bit about Spread Eagle.
Well, we took a hiatus around '94, got together again around 2005 or so, and we've been hitting it hard ever since. So we do about roughly 10 countries every year, and we try to be out. We're not just like, casual uh, hobbyists. You want us to play, we'll be there. We're booking, we try to book every weekend. We're mostly weekend warriors, though, because it's easiest to do shows on Fridays and Saturdays, of course.
Yeah,
And we got a new record that will be out next year. We're not
Cool.
really
cool.
talking about it yet, but we'll start talking about it as soon as the label starts talking about it. Um, and it's really powerful. And we're doing Monsters of Rock cruise in the spring. So we're
Cool.
hitting it hard. We're going to Europe again. Um, so just enjoying life, playing music.
Yeah, you've been doing it for quite a while. So I mentioned an impressive resume. Besides Spread Eagle, I was reading online that so you did the UFO thing for a while. 2008, I think, was when you wound up hooking up with UFO
Yeah,
because
we
their
just
bass player couldn't get their visa.
correct. And they just kind of called it quits about a year ago. Never say never. Fingers crossed. But
Yeah, yeah. Also been listening to a bunch of UFO lately. There's you,
incredible band,
did you
incredible band.
record two albums?
I recorded two albums with them.
Yeah,
That's the one band I played in that I listened to when I was a kid, and
yeah,
it was really. Not only listened to. I didn't mean to say that. One band I played with that I went to see as a kid. So,
yeah,
one of those kids like, yeah, we play.
yeah. That's always a cool story when the band becomes the band member, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Very lucky.
the stuff's amazing. Um, let's see, the Salentino cuts is what I've been listening to, that's a bunch of cover songs.
Yeah, yeah. It was fun.
Rich, if you haven't listened to it,
Self-produced.
listen to it.
Yeah, I'm taking note right now.
Um, so I also saw in 2005, you were a bass player for Sebastian Bach. Uh, we're going on tour Guns N' Roses. Helmet's bass player couldn't get across the Canadian border, and you wound up doing Sebastian Bach and Helmet for the remainder of that tour, correct?
Correct. Correct.
So,
Every show on the Canadian run.
yep. So Rich and I, uh, just a little backstory. Our wheelhouse is like the post-hardcore.
I'm really into
Yeah,
that genre.
yeah,
Heavily, heavily, heavily into that genre.
yeah. So like we're I'm a huge Quicksand fan, Rival Schools. We did a whole show on just post-hardcore. I think it was an hour and 40 minutes that one. But seeing that you play with Helmet, I fanboyed a little bit. Working with Paige pretty easy.
Yeah, yeah. He's a really sweet guy. Absolutely,
Cool.
absolutely. Yeah,
Glad to see it.
I was living in the East Village of Manhattan, and there was a real post-hardcore scene that revolved around a bar called Z Bar, and all kinds of bands hung out there. Like those guys, Orange 9mm, Quicksand, they all hung out.
Yeah,
I was a bartender there. So I was really like, that's why my writing style is so weird, because I was into classic rock when I was a kid, UFO and all that. And
yeah,
then Sleaze came out, and Guns N' Roses, who I love. But then I really got heavily into Fugazi, Quicksand, Helmet,
yeah,
Drive Like Jehu, Shellac. Um, I can go on and on. All those kind of crazy bands.
yeah.
Ever hear of a band called Kepone? Kepone?
I have not.
No.
Check them out. Fucking
Yeah,
unbelievable. It was a guy who was, I think they're from like Norfolk or something, Virginia, but the singer bass player, it was just a power trio where the guitar player and the bass player both sung. The bass player was in Guar at one point, but
cool.
amazing stuff. But anything like that, I was, the more aggressive, I was into. So that's why I have
Yeah,
such a weird style, a mix of blend.
and I did notice the difference between in the Spread Eagle stuff, the self-titled record being more glam, and then as you got to Open to the Public and Subway to the Stars, there was a bit more of a grungier, dirtier feel to it. That
Yeah,
I
well,
picked up
times
on
were
that.
changing.
Yeah, it was definitely changing. You guys are definitely changing with it. I appreciate all three albums, but
Thank you.
it definitely could tell it was changing with. Um, I often get in the band I'm in, Holy Roller. We do like doom, stoner, psych metal, um, but everybody, including Rich, who interviewed me one time, and now we're doing a podcast together, have pointed out they can hear the post-hardcore in what we do, primarily from my drumming style. Um, listening to hundreds of hours of that stuff every year,
Love it.
it just kind of gets ingrained and you play a certain way.
It's an amazing genre. It's like, it's so musical,
Yeah,
like everyone, the better bands are real players, it's
yeah,
so dimensional. It's so deep. There's so much there, it's not just like a pop song,
yeah,
which fine if you're in a pop band, but
yeah,
it's the opposite of that. There's so much going on in that genre, and it's not always just like insanity. It's,
yeah.
sometimes it's really beautiful, and well coordinated, and it's just such a great genre of music.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see Quicksand did the 30th anniversary for Slip on tour, and they came through Raleigh, North Carolina on Halloween 2 years ago, and I went and saw them. And they had Stephen Brodsky playing guitar with them from Cave-In, which is such a good combination. I wish they'd stayed that four-piece forever. Um, but, the musical talent that was on that stage that night, Serge played for the Deftones for a while. Walter's been in about 900 bands.
Yeah.
Brodsky's been in a lot of stuff.
Okay, so Brodsky's not with
yeah,
them anymore?
he does fill-in work for him. Like
Yeah, every now and then. I saw
he'll
them
go.
last summer and he was not there. They played as a trio.
Yeah, they play as a
Oh,
trio when he's not there, but when he can tour with them, they'll go out and they'll do a four piece again, like they did when Tom Capone was playing with him.
yeah. I
And it'll be the full four piece, and it's just so powerful.
Yeah, what a band, man. One of
Yeah,
the best.
We definitely want to talk about Spread Eagle, but I have to ask a helmet question. Was Trainer the drummer then? Was it Chris Trainer who was drumming for Helmet then, or
No, no, it was the guy who's with him now.
okay?
He's
The
still with him. He's been with him a long time now.
I asked because you mentioned the musical talent. Like Page is like a PhD guitar player.
Wasn't Chris the guitar player?
Yeah, I'm wrong. I meant to say John Stanier was not the drummer then.
Yeah, he Stanier left
Yeah,
before Chris.
it wasn't Tempesta who was playing drums then,
No,
was
I
it?
mean, I apologize that I don't know the guy's name because he was a very nice guy.
It's okay. I,
A long
I,
time ago.
I think the impressive part that I got out of just a little, I read an article about it, is that you learn those songs so quickly. And I feel like, and maybe you can tell us how true the article is, but it sounds like you learned the 12 songs like within a couple of hours and you were ready to go. And that would be extremely impressive given like just how musically, like adept those guys are. So is that a true story? And what kind of challenge was that jumping in like that?
It's a completely true story, every word of it, including the exact amounts of time. Um, but there's more to the story. One, I had listened to that band my whole life,
yeah,
so that's half of it right there. You're like, oh, I know this next part's going to come. I know there's a change right here. If you'd never heard the song before, you're like, is this where So, but also a few years before, I had learned a few songs and auditioned for Helmet,
Ah.
and so I knew a few of the songs. I mean, still, that's all odd time music, and it's like I can't remember yesterday. So, but it was in there somewhere. Um, but and it was strange because they didn't choose me at the time, and I nailed the audition. I truly, truly was. I didn't go. I haven't been on many auditions in my life, but I give it like I had no critiques of what I did, and it was very ironic because as soon as I played that the first show with them, they wanted me to join the band. And I was like, well, why? But anyway, so I had known a couple songs. I had learned a couple songs, or maybe a few songs before. I had known all of them in my head, just the general flow of them, the general forms of them. So, but it was crazy. I just there was no margin for error. It was a big tour, and the whole another part of the story is this: they the band before Helmet, who was on the tour, was Queens of the uh, Eagles of Death Metal,
yep,
and they lasted about 20 minutes. The audience did not like them. It's like Guns N' Roses fans are very particular. They liked Sebastian, they accepted him, and even that's tough. Because they want to see Axl, they want to see Guns, but they would accept something like that. Eagles of Death Metal, they were not having it. They were booing, they were booing, they were booing. They pulled them off after like about 20 minutes, and they were off the tour. So they started talking a lot of shit about Axl and Baz, which was very unprofessional because they had a great opportunity. It wasn't because they suck or anything. It just wasn't the right pairing. And for them to start talking shit was very uncool. And we were all felt like very we felt ownership of this tour because we were on it. Like Sebastian did 100 shows opening for Guns N' Roses, so
yeah,
you start to really feel like some little bit of ownership to be part of this huge thing. And all of a sudden, there was a lot of bad shit going on in the press, and so we all felt. I took that personally. So I didn't want anything to go further to go wrong with the tour. Um, And then all of a sudden, I'm in a position to influence that, you know, because this was okay. So to explain, we went to Canada. We were touring North America, then we went to Canada, and this is the first day of the Canadian tour because our bass player couldn't get into the country. So this is the entire Canadian tour starting from the first day. And you know, in Canada, there's not a lot of arenas, so we were playing big arenas because people travel from, you know, an hour away in all directions because the next arena is 4 hours away or 5 hours away. Canada's a big
Yeah.
place. So they were big shows, they were really big shows, and they were like, you know, sold out shows. So I felt like a real obligation to not to stop any negativity of the tour right away, you know, and that was difficult because of the situation I was being thrown into. But you know, it had to be done, and I somehow did it, and I actually played pretty good considering all that new material, just you know, just fresh in my mind. Um, so yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I got a lot of respect, you know, after that because it was, you know, you have to understand just 2 days ago, 3 days ago, that band was kicked off the tour. Then all this negative press. Then we crossed the border into Canada, and they decide to get Helmet, which was a great move. Um, and then, you know, how's it going to go? You know, is it going to be more negative press? And to Page's credit, uh, what I was saying about Guns N' Roses fans being so particular, after the first show, he sensed that a little bit, and he switched. He didn't have to. He decided to switch and to go on as the opener and have Sebastian as direct support, and then GNR. And that was a smart move because now when you're the first band, people are like more like, oh, what's this? You know, I'd like to check this out. So it was just, you know, you know, the opposite of a rookie move. Like he's got instincts, and he's like, okay, I know how to make this really work, and he did, and it did work. So
Yeah, it's super awesome that you did it. Pulling double duty on the same tour or even on the same show, which I've done before as a drummer, is not easy.
no,
It's taxing mentally and physically,
mentally.
especially when you're going back to back sets and there's nobody in
Well,
between.
you so more than me being a
Yeah,
drummer.
yeah, and I'm a smoker, so it doesn't make
Uh,
it. But yeah, no, it's quite an amazing feat. You know,
thank you.
4 hours learn that set. Um, I'm pretty sure though, like in your case, you listened to Helmet a bunch and you kind of knew those songs, which made it easier. I'm sure if Walter hit me up and said, "Hey, Quicksand needs Alan to get replaced real quick for a tour," I'd jump on like that.
Walter, if you're listening,
Yeah,
Walter.
I think Alan Cage worked at that bar also
yeah,
that I was talking about. That everything revolved around that scene, you know.
yeah.
But he was always there. I think he might have worked there also.
Cool, cool. Um, so I want to move into a couple other projects that you did. Uh, the main one, she was my hugest
Back in the
crush growing up.
1900s,
Back in the 1900s, she was my biggest crush growing up, but you got a chance to play with Joan Jett.
I did. Um, I was lucky to play. I was just like a fill-in guy, like an in-between guy. But we did like USA and Puerto Rico, and it was
Yeah,
great. It was great. She was really nice, really pro. Band was great. It was Tommy Price, rest in peace.
yeah.
That's how I got in. He had played drums on the second Spread Eagle record. That's how I knew him, and he was an East
Cool,
Village
cool.
guy. You know, I was an East Village, New York guy. And yeah, it was a real awesome thing.
Such a small and incestuous world, right? That he
Yeah,
played with you guys and he was in that project as well.
yeah,
Um, I also read that you played with George Lynch a little bit and Vinnie Moore.
yeah. I played with George on a couple occasions in the not back in the 1900s. So
It's okay. We break the rules around here sometimes.
yeah, about 2004, I think I did 2005. Did some
Yeah.
touring with him, and then again just a few years ago in about 2020. 2022-ish, 2020 maybe,
Yeah. And then
2023 maybe.
Vinnie Moore,
And
same thing,
what
kind
was
of
the other one?
chilling. Vinnie Moore.
Vinnie Moore. Well, Vinnie Moore is a guitar player in UFO for
Yeah.
a little longer than me, since about 2005, I think, 2004, and he asked me to play a few songs on a few songs on one of his solo records, and that was awesome.
Cool.
And he's
Yeah,
incredible musician, and one of the nicest guys in the biz.
definitely. So as I said earlier, super impressive resume, right?
Thank you, thank
Spread
you.
Eagle for 35 years, mostly on, sometimes off, but mostly on. Sebastian Bach, filled in for Helmet. UFO from 2008 to 2024. Joan Jett, George Lynch, Vinnie Moore, and I know there's more projects. Those are the big ones.
Probably. Those are the notables, though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't played in Drivetrain yet from Maine. Maybe someday. But they're an awesome band.
Drivetrain, if you're listening.
Yeah. I want to ask you about as we've kind of, like you said, we're out of the realm of our normal year range, but going back as a kid who watched a lot of MTV, I was reading about the basement tapes. I thought that was fake. I didn't think that was like a thing that people actually like were a part of and won until my buddy said that he is like, but his band came in second or something like that, which I still don't believe really happened. But like, what was that like? Like when you were, according to this, you won that, and that's kind of set the wheels in motion. Were you part of like an MTV kind of machine at some point, or was this like a really organic kind of thing that just happened?
It was probably 95% organic, but the 5% is that we got in because our manager, who also directed the video, knew a couple people at MTV. So I don't think it was influential in us winning, but I think it helped us get submitted. And I'm pretty sure it helped us get submitted. So that was cool, but we were kids. And you know, the music wasn't great yet, but we were on our way. We were learning the ropes. So it was fun.
I'll have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, see if there's anything else that I had.
As you're looking at, I have a follow up to that.
Go ahead, follow up.
When you were looking, you were signed pretty early on in your band career, right? As Spread Eagle.
We had not done one show yet.
That's pretty amazing. And was it I have two-part question after you said that. Was it a time where they where the A&R guys and the labels were just like grabbing anybody who had a particular sound to try to find the next big thing? And follow up to that, which is going to sound like a unrelated, but I've been watching the Puff Daddy documentary.
Me
And
too.
one of the things that got me in that, besides all the other terrible things that he did, were the shady contracts that he threw out for his artists and how those artists, like none of those guys got paid. And then I went down a whole Craig Mack rabbit hole, and that now I'm very disturbed by a lot of that stuff. But anyway, was that at the time kids signing documents and doing all that? Was that is that how that went, or was it more of an innocent kind of, hey, we love you guys, come be on the label and we'll do what we can for you?
I think it's still like that. I don't think bands make any money from labels. I think it gets them an advance where they don't have to dig out of their pocket to do videos and albums. So, I mean, it is important if that's, you have the choice. Am I going to do this myself? Am I going to do this with the label? If you choose to do it with a label, it's important to have someone front that money so you don't have to dig into your pocket, especially if a band like Spread Eagle, we don't have it. I definitely know that we do not have the money to make a record and a couple videos for it. So it's still like that. What was it like back then? Yes, when it became very obvious with Guns N' Roses that this sound is huge or is going to be huge, and it's going to last a certain amount of time. and every label was like anything that sounds anything like that. And then there was also like, you know, the Janes thing where it was the early alternative bands like that were
Yeah.
also getting noticed. And Chili Peppers, you know. So this is just before Faith No More, I'm saying, I think. But they're, you know, that that record, I guess, was The Real Thing it's called, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yes, bands were getting signed left and right. Some of them were good, some of them were bad, you know. And I think it's still like that with labels. I think people don't make money. You know, you make money off your touring. So if you sign to a label that takes a chunk of your touring, you don't really have any chance of making any money. And bands
Yeah.
these days, to be honest, the touring money isn't that much, but it's enough to keep you going. You know, keep your kind of entity moving that keeps rolling.
Seems like the major labels are more like a bank for musicians. Where what you're saying, they're giving you an advance. You have to pay that advance back
Oh, of
over
course.
time. Um, before you start making any money. But uh, the smaller labels. I'm on a smaller label. Well, a large size mid smaller label.
You had every adjective in that description, Bethwa. Every one you could.
Sorry, Todd, if you're listening. Todd's great. We don't pay for any pressing, but we do pay for our like recording our album, doing our own video. Uh, and it's kind of just we all put a little bit into the pot and we all get a little bit out of it. So small labels that seem to be more like that, where it's more DIY and what you get out of it is PR and product. Seems
So
to
at
be
that
the
point,
main thing.
you got to crunch the numbers. Like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm paying for this album, paying for these videos. How much does it cost for this promotion that you're providing? And how much are we generating on Spotify, et cetera? What, you know, and then should we do it ourselves, or, you
yeah,
know, is this a good, you know, equation?
yeah. I think for my personal project, it was a great decision.
Good.
It's propelled us from the PR aspect of it into areas we couldn't get our foot in the door before.
Nice.
So that certainly
Where are
helped
you guys
out. And
based out of?
we're based out of North Carolina.
Nice.
Little backstory: I grew up in Jersey, so I'm from your neck of the woods, and Rich grew up in Long Island.
Long Island, yeah.
Nice. We're at Dingbats this Saturday night,
I,
December 13th, I believe.
yeah, I used to live right off Van Houten,
Oh,
and
wow. So you
I
live in
lived in
Clifton.
I lived in Clifton for a bit,
Wow.
and I moved there because their bar closing time was 3 o'clock and not 2 o'clock.
Priorities, man.
Exactly.
Life priorities.
And there was a White Castle around the corner from my house, so I mean, it was go to the bar at 3 o'clock, get hammered, go to White Castle. That was life.
Perfect.
Um, any I always ask this one. Any tour stories? I know we talked about the GNR tour a little bit, but any other tour stories that are like outrageous, like crazy stories, or maybe a band you love touring with or a band you hated touring with?
It looks like you just recently toured with Warrior Soul too, which
That's what I was going
probably
to
could have been insane, maybe now and definitely back in the day. But
Yeah,
say. You know, Warrior Soul got signed in the same little tiny underground basement space in the East Village that we got signed in at the same time. It was also it was a rehearsal recording. I'm talking a little tiny little thing.
yeah,
It was basically 2 rooms. But as I said earlier, we had some gigs booked, um, and we we asked our managers, both of them, the guy that directed that video that you were talking about, Basement Tapes. He continued to be our manager, and then we got another manager through Ray West, our singer. Um, and those guys, the names were Charlie Gambetta and Scott Calvert, both of them, rest in peace. They knew some people in the industry, being New York guys. So we had these gigs booked out of town. Of course, we wanted to get signed as soon as possible because we were in that band, the Basement Tapes band, that never got anything. You know, we tried so hard for so many years, but we weren't good enough. You know, so so our two managers, Scott and Charlie, invited some friends down to give some constructive criticisms to maybe set us on the fast track, and we started getting offers. So this was before our first gigs. Then we canceled the gigs. But where was I going with this? You asked a question.
Warrior Soul. I think we were talking about Warrior Soul. Yeah.
So Warrior Soul rehearsed in that same little tiny place. It was a 12 by 12 room with a little control room connected to it. And so I was friendly with them, but I didn't really know them. And I heard their music, obviously, on Headbangers Ball, but I didn't plug into it that much. I didn't just like it by any means. I liked it, but I didn't go, oh, this is. So, but I did like it. I just didn't pay a lot of attention to it, to be totally honest. Good quality music, obviously. We went on tour with them just recently, this year in UK, and they are so fucking great a band. They are so fucking great. Every night they were great. They kept us in top form and gave us a run for our money. We got along great. Any kind of competition is healthy, playful, artistic, brotherly competition.
Yeah.
They gave us a run for our money. And I watched them every night, and it was such a great tour. They're such a great band. Corey's such a fantastic frontman and artist. And his backing band, which are not the original guys, are excellent. Absolutely excellent. So it was a fantastic experience. So that was one of my best tour experiences. But obviously the big ones we talked about earlier, they were huge.
Yeah. Did you guys and Law and Order ever do anything together?
We did a few shows, and those guys are dear, dear friends of mine, especially all of them, but especially Phil Laco, who was the guitar player back then. Then he went on to be the singer guitar player of a band called Dogma on Interscope.
Yeah.
But we didn't do enough things together. We should have done a lot more because we got along great. We're both from New York City, and music was compatible, but not too much the same thing. That was another thing that was cool about Warrior Soul. We're both heavy and crazy, but not different versions of 90s thing. Same thing with the Law and Order, but no, we didn't. We did two shows at the Limelight with them.
Cool.
And we might have done a show in Staten Island with them.
Yeah, we had Shane was on the show. Fantastic. He's coming back on again.
Nice guy, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely great. His voice is freaking amazing. Absolutely loved Law and Order. And at time period where I was listening to Slayer and Celtic Frost and all these fucking heavy bands, there was bands like Law and Order and bands like Spread Eagle and bands like Rich and Short, Saigon Kick, that stuck out to me, that pulled me away from the heavier stuff. And as a musician, I guess I appreciated everything. But certain bands for sure that stood out.
Yeah, I think there was a sound, right?
Law and Order should have been a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Phil directed our video for the song Sound of Speed. Phil Laco, the guitar player, Law and Order, directed it.
Cool.
There were bands during that time, you guys mentioned like a Saigon Kick, like Love Hate, Warrior Soul, that kind of broke the mold of like what was happening in that hair bandy era. You guys just happened to have long hair, and I think that's all record executives probably saw sometimes was the way bands look. But you watch some of the older videos for like you guys, Law and Order or Saigon Kick, like it looks like Alice in Chains playing. You know what I mean? There's not like this like posing hairband thing, but I think that unfortunately got caught up in, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you might say in that. Were there other like-minded bands that you just remember hanging with, playing with, or that were very impressive to you that would from like the 90s era that you would call out?
Definitely Love Hate was one of my favorites. Like Warrior Soul and Love Hate, those bands were being influenced by like the underground alternative thing that Jane's pretty much started to bring to the mainstream. We weren't. We were influenced by, we were like Sleaze meets thrash. That was our other influence. We were listening to, Metallica and a little bit of Slayer. We actually listened to a lot of stuff. And suicidal tendencies, and so alternative wasn't really our thing until it blew up, and it was hard to not be influenced by it. But to be honest, when we were making that first record, we weren't listening to a lot of alternative other than James. We were pretty heavily into James, but I'd say love hate. Like I said, how I kind of missed Warrior Soul, and I just didn't connect to them that early, but I did connect to love hate, and I was blown away by them.
You mentioned Suicidal. Now I have to go back to on your records and listen to it again with Suicidal in mind, because they're I think they're one of they're a band that I think gets pigeonholed, and not, I don't think everyone realizes like the influence that they had, not just on like crossover stuff, but like those later albums too. Where
Did you guys have any kind of connection with King's X at all at the time? Were you guys doing
No,
shows at all? Or?
I met them afterwards in the 90s. I mean, in the early 2000s. Nice, very nice guys. But no, unfortunately, I would love to tour with them.
I got to open one show.
Oh, cool!
So
Great
it
band.
was super cool. Yeah, fantastic. One of the most underrated bands of all time, in my opinion.
I didn't know that. Oh, look at you.
Did I open a show for King's X?
No, I had no idea that you did that. That's very cool. When Ty Tabor did some stuff for Ripple, and I said, hey, Todd, why don't you get Ty to come over on the show? It was a joke, but I mean, imagine. But yeah, very amazing and influential band. Bob, what would you say? Do you have a Spread Eagle memory, like one that jumps out at you that you would call out here, that is like the antithesis of being in Spread Eagle, or something that is your, not necessarily your favorite, but maybe like your most like vivid memory of being in that band, or being in the band, I guess you would say.
A memory antithesis of the big stuff. When we were recording our second album, when we started recording it pretty early on, it was a long process. That was part of the problem with that album. Our manager, Charlie Gambetta, one of our managers, he had a car that always stalled, and we were recording in Jersey through the tunnel. I forget the name of the place.
The Big Blue Meanie?
Yeah, that place, but it might have been a different name at the time.
Yeah.
It was probably before Big Blue Meanie name. That place, though.
Yeah.
We were recording there, and the car would always die. And one time it died in the tunnel. So I guess it was the Midtown Tunnel, most likely, but it could have been the Holland. I'm not sure. I think it was the Midtown. So we're pushing the car, and so to start the car, when that happened, you had to kickstart it. You had to, I'm not sure how to do it, but you would throw it into gear as it was rolling. So this is rock star. This is what it's like to be a rock star. So we're pushing the car. You have to get it going fast. So we're running at our top speed, pushing the car, breathing heavy through a tunnel full of smog, trying to get this car started. So that's what it's like to be,
If that's not rock and roll,
successful rock star.
If that is not rock and roll, I do not know what is.
Oh, excellent.
And then another one is that was the very beginning of that album cycle. Fast forward to the end of that album cycle. We were traveling to gigs in a box truck with just 2 seats up front, and then all the gear in the back, and us just laying on top of the gear. I mean, we're traveling far to Ohio and Pittsburgh, and so that's the end of the album cycle. So this is, the before and the after are both pretty bad. Usually the before is really good and the after is bad. It's just bad and bad.
I don't think that folks that have never been in a band or toured before understand some of the shit that we do to make things work. I've done the on top of the gear in the back of a 16-passenger van before, for several shows in a row. Definitely not comfortable. I've slept in a van. I've taken the prison shower in Walmart while on tour. because we couldn't afford a hotel room to go take a real shower. You eat like shit, but I wouldn't trade it for the
It's hard
world.
to find good food. It really is.
Yeah, I would not trade it for the world. One more band I wanted to ask you about if you came across during that time period. It's one that Rich and I bring up often, that we both mutually love, is a band called Mindfunk.
Mind Funk?
Yeah, Mindfunk.
They were Jersey guys, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know a whole lot about the band. I remember I had their album. I listened to their album. They were like, a little bit of that uh, alternative mixed with metal. They were a little more
yeah.
metally, um, but I don't remember them that much.
Gotcha.
They had a
Yeah,
minute,
they did.
but
They had that one album was really great, and then I realized years and years later another album had come out that I didn't know about,
oh, okay.
and I
I
went
didn't
back
know
and listened
about
to
they
it.
had more. I didn't know about anything except that one album either.
Yeah, yeah, the one with the purple cover. That was the one that I remember.
Yeah, like
Vividly.
psychedelic kind of
Yeah,
design.
yeah,
Cool looking.
yeah, yeah.
Came with a free T-shirt when you bought it at the Wiz. Also, just so just in case. Yeah, yeah. I got a free T-shirt with my
Nobody
CD.
beats the Wiz.
And nobody does beat the Wiz. Absolutely. Between there and Crazy Eddie, I kept those stores open.
Yeah. Well, Rob, I certainly appreciate you coming on, and taking the time to talk a little shop about the past and whatnot. Spread Eagle has a new album coming out. We learned tonight. At some
It's
point in the
going to be
future.
out next year.
So
Are you still working with Frontiers, or is it or? Oh, cool. Okay, awesome. How has that experience been? I know we're past time, but how has the experience been working with those guys?
Um, it's labels are tough. They don't, they give you some promotion, but if you don't do it yourself,
Yeah.
you have to do it yourself. A label will put out an album for you and give you a video and get you a lot of views on the video, and that's a great thing. And you have to choose if that's financially, economically what you want, or if you want to do it yourself. But in the end, you still have to break the band yourself out
Yeah.
on the road.
The more work you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Yeah, yeah. But it's fun, talking about these old times, before it's just written on a stone, it's carved into a stone in pictures.
Before we end the episode, is there anything we didn't bring up that you want to talk about?
No, just thank you for, to the Spread Eagle fans, because that's the main thing I'm doing. That's what I'm focused on. We, if, we, Rich, where are you at? You in New England or?
I'm in Florida now.
Florida? Okay.
I lived in Long Island. Now I live in Florida. It's what happens.
That's what
I
we
just
got.
have a couple shows left this weekend coming up in Delaware and New Jersey.
Cool.
Halftime and Dingbats, your old haunt. And we just thanks to all the fans who keep coming out to see us, who still believe in the band. I think we were somewhat special, and that's why Ray and I still do it,
You guys wouldn't be able to do it as long as you've done.
I think there's still gas left in the tank. There's definitely still gas left in the tank. So we'll see you out 2026 in Europe and UK and all over USA.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you come back back on the show. Yeah, please.
Please reach out. I'd love to.
Yeah.
We would love to do that.
If you ever decide you have a knack for wanting to write some post-hardcore songs and need a drummer, let me know.
Jane. And if there's one thing that we've learned on this is to keep your visa clean so you can get into Canada,
Yes.
right? I think that is for you musicians out there, right? That is
It's a good thing to talk about.
a good.
If you have a DUI or a violent offense, you won't get into Canada or Japan or Australia without a rehabilitation process, which costs a few $1,000s. So don't get DUIs, don't get into any bar fights, and you'll be able to tour those places.
Yeah. Awesome. Rob, thank you.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
And Rich, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Nice meeting you. Nice
Thank
being
you.
here.
Definitely. Thank you, man.
Thanks, everybody.